Yo, what's up guys? Path of Exile 2's The Abyssal League has been out for over 3 weeks now, and I've pretty much cleared everything, all of the endgame, all of the bosses. I've leveled 3 characters to max level, got involved with the new crafting system, made hundreds of divines, geared out a few characters, and even though I've got no plans to stop, I thought it'd be a really good time to just talk about the game, talk about the state of the game, the good, the bad, overall how it feels to play right now, and the future. Okay, so let's get straight into this, and obviously these are all just my opinions, so I'd love to hear what you guys think down below. How's your experience been? What build did you play? But first thing I want to talk about is the story and, replaying the story on alts as well. So I think the story this league is the best it's been. I think removing the cruel mode is the best decision they've made. I really was not a fan of cruel. I think having to play through some of those acts again, they grind you down on them a little bit. Act 3, playing it through a second time in cruel, always felt like a real slog to me. So getting rid of that is massive. I think that's a really, really good change. And Act 4 is amazing. I think Act 4 is one of the best things they've made. I think it's incredible. The boat, having King's March, that was in the first game, bringing that into PoE 2, having King's March and the people, and being able to sail to all the different islands at your own pace. The islands themselves also really good. You've got the cool monsters on there, like the starfish, the brine maidens, that island. I think generally, like, the monster design, the islands, everything about Act 4 was really, really good, and I honestly can't fault it. Even the boss fights were fun, so amazing there. The only thing I probably dislike is what they call the interludes. I personally thought the interludes were a bit boring, but that's the only part of the game that isn't cemented into the game. That's just a temporary thing, like Cruel was. It's just a temporary thing to level us to endgame. I think the way they've done alts is also really, really good. We have the sprinting, which is amazing. We have the gear is so easy to get now with crafting and the availability of resources. Like, so many more materials are dropping. Generally, just the loot seems to have gone up. We seem to get loads of drops. Greater Jeweler's Orb, Perfect Jeweler's Orbs are dropping at a much higher quantity. So when you do go to level an alt, you can pretty much get the skills you want to use, unlock 4 or 5 skill gems, and you can use rank 5 skill gems from level 1. So yeah, leveling alts has felt amazing. I leveled 3 characters this time, 3 or 4, I think 3, and it was fine. I didn't feel any tedium there, whereas last league going through on alts felt really slow, and I wasn't as enjoyable as it's been in the Abyssal League. I'm probably going to make a 4th character. I've got a witch, a monk, and a ranger so far, and I'm enjoying them all. So it's in a good spot, and the only weaknesses right now in the story are likely going to be gone in the next patch. So big win there. Okay, now let's talk about the Abyssal mechanic. This was their first league, so this is the Abyssal League, the first one. And how was it? How was it as a league mechanic? I think overall it was good. I think overall it was very good, but there are some problems that I think are worth mentioning. The idea of, finding these cracks in the ground and following them to these holes and monsters just pour out of them is amazing. It's a feature that's in the first game, so it's been updated, juiced up, more interesting, I'd say. And overall it was really good. Finding these in the campaign made the campaign more interesting. Finding them at endgame makes endgame more interesting, and you add a ton more loot to the map because there's just so many monsters. You get, the caches, which pour out more loot. You can climb down the hole and you can get like rare omens, the vertebrae and the jawbones and stuff like that from the chests in those holes. So overall, I think it was really good, and not having it as an endgame mechanic, on the map, I think worked well. You have it on certain nodes that you can go and find, and then you can desecrate the waystones, which I think is a really smart idea, using the Well of Souls, having the identifiable things. Overall, amazing. I think they did an incredible job of how they made it work in the game, rather than just you go into a map and it's there and there's no other depth to it. I thought amazing. The only downsides I would give to the actual mechanic itself is the performance was terrible. The performance of these things was really bad. If you weren't aware as well, there is a boss tied to this. Maybe you're still early in the league. There is a boss tied to this Abyssal mechanic. So when you go down these holes, some of them lead you to a boss. You beat the boss, it gives you an invitation. You then use that at the Well of Souls to go fight a boss. Additionally, that boss can drop some loot, and if you are playing on a Lich, you can unlock a secret class called the Abyssal Lich. Amazing. Nobody knowing that the Abyssal Lich existed on release was fantastic. And the mechanic there of, getting the bosses, getting the invitation was really, really good. I personally would have liked to have seen more challenging bosses tied to that. I thought the boss itself was a little buggy and a little... I thought they could have done a lot more with that boss. And the loot as well, I thought could have been more interesting. That is probably just 2 personal things I would have liked to see. Overall, it's really, really good. Would it be nice to have 10 Abyssal classes, you know, an Abyssal Monk, an Abyssal Ranger. Yeah, sure. But the fact they added one is pretty interesting. Okay, now for crafting and itemization, and I think we are in the perfect spot. I think it's good to talk about criticisms where we need to, but here, I think we're there. I think this was perfect. I think they did the perfect changes and they added the perfect things we needed to the areas that needed them. In the last patch, drops were kind of low and it was slow and it was very hard to get any like divines and like build up a good stack of stuff to, you know, improve your build. On top of that, crafting was just complete RNG. So actually getting a good gear set endgame to push tier 15 maps was slow, and that grind was really tedious. They moved everything in the right direction. Drops now drop amazingly. You are just constantly dropping. If you just run maps, you are just constantly dropping loot, divines, items, crafting bases, and everything just goes on. The new and improved Angie, instant sales without any player-to-player needed. It's just so good. It's so seamless that you can just grind at endgame and your character gets stronger. On top of that, the crafting is amazing. The crafting is everything we needed. It's just so good. These items here, you know how we have like the greater, the perfect, how we have the essences that are like greater and perfect, and then we have the, you know, the jawbones and the new omens. It's all just so good. I think they've hit the nail on the head, and they just need to keep going in this direction. I also really like how most people can now get into this. Is it more confusing? Yes. Is that a bit of a problem? Maybe. Do we need to tailor it down a little bit on the, you know, simplicity side? Maybe a little bit. But where we are in terms of the depth and the things we can do, it's 10 out of 10. It really is. I made a crafting guide a couple of days ago that went from like brand new beginner to all of the new crafting systems. And in there, I tried to show some very budget things you can do to make deterministic crafts. And a lot of the comments there were very positive of, I've never crafted before, now I'm crafting and I'm really enjoying it. And I think that's the thing that they've hit the nail on the head for. If you are willing to learn the system, you can make not your base, but you can make a very strong end game piece of gear that will carry you out of the tier 1s and 2s into the actual end game and getting into the bosses. So I think amazing. Everything they've done in this patch was a net positive on the game, I think. And I really hope we stay in this direction that we're going. Okay, now for the end game, the actual end game, when you get to the max level and you start doing maps and pushing end game, how is it? This is just my opinion and it's biased, so, you know, take it for what it is. I think the bossing side is amazing. I think doing the bosses is really fun now. How we have, you know, you use the splinters and it's 50, 100, 150 to go through the 3 tiers. You pretty much get your first 2 points free at endgame just for doing any of those things in the map. I think that's a really good change. It gets new players into bossing and you get unlimited free tries on your first boss. You know, you get infinite portals. I think that's a really good change. And I think that's going to help more people get into bosses, and bosses are really fun. I've ran all of the bosses and I've really enjoyed them. So I think bossing's really good. I do think they need to look at the rewards on the bosses because they took a lot of good things out of the bosses. The ritual boss is still epic. He still drops tons and tons of omens because everyone needs the new omens. But some of the others have lost their like juicy drops. You know, you would chase certain things at endgame in like, you know, Sekima or in, you know, the breach boss, and those things all got nerfed quite hard that it does feel like they're missing something to chase there. So that could be tweaked. So that's bossing. Overall, I think bossing's in a great place. Endgame itself, mapping. So the Atlas, good and bad things here. But overall, I think my opinion hasn't really changed. These things here, these new deadly boss monster things are really cool. I think they're really interesting. Clearing the maps around them to get to them. Pretty cool mechanic. The unique maps are 10 out of 10. I think these are amazing. They're fun, they're interesting, and they're rare enough that when you find one, they're exciting. You also get Atlas points from them, so they're like embedded into the end game. Amazing. The end game grind itself of clearing the desecrated, what are they called? The corrupted zones. Really good. I think genuinely the end game progression and how we get, you know, to end game, cleansing the zones and turning into these crystal zones is all interesting. I think it's all good. And the base of the Atlas, you know, how the Atlas works is really fun. That's the positives. The negatives are something I probably talk about every time I do one of these, and that hasn't changed. I still think the juice isn't worth the squeeze. That's the best way I can put it. When we have a map like this is the juice, right? We've got map boss, breach, expedition, irradiated, and cleansed. That's going to be a juicer map. And now when you can run a good map, when you can run a tier 15 map with 6 modifiers. You know, you've worked hard on your build, you've got a really good build, and you can push that map well. That's going to be a good map. It's going to drop multiple divines, maybe. It's going to drop loads of loot. It's just going to be really fun and really rewarding. What's not going to be really fun and rewarding is this, or this, or this, because there's nothing there. So you could run this, but you're not going to really get anything. Now what we've got to do? We've got to go and find towers. So we've got to go and find a tower. There's one up here. So I had to clear my way through these boring maps to get to a tower. And now you probably want a 2-tower setup. So we've got to clear out that whole process. I just wish they would get rid of it. I think that is the most tedious, boring process. Sure, you can use the grand projects to jump around, but generally, I just think the tower system and having to set up your maps is just boring. I just wish they'd get rid of that. That's my opinion. I think the waystone system is good. How they've changed the waystones for this tier, this league, is really, really good. You know, the risk reward on the waystones is really good now, and you can stack good things. You can also use like the rarity drops that we can get now to pump your rarity on your waystones. And generally the whole system around like the waystones, the maps feel more fun. The maps feel full of monsters. The maps just running these maps is an amazing experience. So credit where credit's due. The end game is really, really good, but running the Atlas, I really don't like. Like setting up the Atlas, I think just change it some way. I don't know. They're smart guys. I'm sure they can do it. They even said towers was on their to-do list for this league, and they didn't get around to it. So we'll see where they go from there. But yeah, I've spent the majority of my time, honestly, just doing bosses this league. I've got most of my stuff just from running the bosses and running, what's it called? Trial of Sekima, farming that, because I'm just not really into setting up all the towers. But just my view. Let me know what you think down below. Maybe you love it. Maybe you love the never-ending cycle of always chasing the next tower. Maybe that is exciting to you. Maybe you like going into the fog and seeing what's there. But personally, it's just not for me. Now for classes and builds and kind of the meta, I think we're in an okay spot, but I don't think we're in a great spot. If you look at, you know, lots of the new stuff we have, it's good. Lots of the new changes are good. But I think, are the builds that we have in the game fun? Yes, I've played Deadeye, Witch, and Monk, and all 3 of those have been really, really fun. I've played multiple builds on each as well, like Ice and Lightning Deadeye, Ice and Lightning Monk. I've played Minion and Chaos Witch, Lich and, you know, Infernalist, and they've all been fun. I've enjoyed every single one. I've enjoyed every single build I've played, which is a very, very positive thing, and hats off to GGG for making the gameplay so fun, right? Good. I think the problem we have is the underutilized stuff is still massively underutilized. Now, similarly to that, but not the same, I think there is a issue with clearing. There is an issue with clearing the maps, and that is that you want to clear the maps as fast as possible, and you want to have the fastest way to clear the map so that you can clear more maps. And if you're making 5 divines an hour, you want to make 10 divines an hour and 25 divines an hour. You want to keep getting faster and stronger. And that creates 2 problems, I think, because the classes in this game are so slow. Everyone is just so slow that the builds that can push themselves from being this total speed of movement speed that we have in the game, even the 35% movement speed boost, the movement speed in this game is trash, right? Even with sprinting, the movement speed is terrible for an endgame ARPG. We want to be faster. Anyone that can get faster is going to be a meta build. If you can just add the rower to your build and clear the whole screen with Thunder, meta build. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit weaker than something else. If you can clear the whole screen with Thunder, Herald of Thunder, and move at a faster speed than everyone else, you win. If you can take the, what do you call it? The monk. Take the monk build from the last season with the stat stacker. The stat stacker monk that could get its skill speed so high that it can just move through the entire screen in 1 second and then clear the whole screen in 1 second. That's a meta build. Doesn't matter if, oh, the damage is 100k. Doesn't matter. It can get through the whole screen and it can one-shot all the mobs. It's a meta build. And I think that's one thing that is, again, causing a lot of disparity. You look at like the Deadeye. The Deadeye is the most played build this league. You can just see it in the stat tree. You could see it before the league started. You go in the stat tree, they have all these attack speed increases, they have all these movement speed increases, they have the rower, they have ranged again, which is faster than melee in most cases. And I think that as a whole is just creating this thing where even if you make a really good off meta build, if it doesn't have good movement speed, good clear, good AoE screen clear, it just doesn't hit. I think that problem's furthered a little bit by that we just don't have many classes. We were supposed to get the druid this league and we just didn't get it because it wasn't ready and they focused on other stuff. When we have more classes, that will help with the, you know, the variety of things in the game, right? So right now, a lot of the stuff in the deck side is in a good spot. When we have, you know, another strength build, when we have like the druid, all those primal skills are usable by everybody. When we have the sword skills, they can be then used by lots of the melee classes, and that's going to add a lot more. The pool of things that we can tap into is going to grow, which is going to create a lot more potential builds, and that's going to be good to see. But I do think if bringing up lots of the unused stuff would do a lot of good in the meantime. We generally do get a lot of like mid-league patches, and I'd love to see them just push lots of stuff up. They don't do nerfs really that much, but pushing up lots of the underutilized skills and abilities and things would be nice to see. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Overall thoughts on the league. I think we're in an amazing place. I think this is the most fun I've ever had playing PoE 2, and I think this is the best place the game has ever been. Everything that pretty much everything that came in the Abyssal patch was a net positive. I think I've given criticisms here, of course, but overall, is the game more fun than last league? Yes, vastly so. The drops are better, the mapping's better, the end game content, the end game progression, gearing, itemization, crafting, how the game just feels. Everything is a positive. I think everything is an improvement, and they've just done an amazing job. I've got a lot of trust that these guys can do this, make a good game out of PoE 2. It was in a very, very tough spot in the last league, and I think a lot of people were critical about that, and they voiced their opinions, and they've addressed almost everything. I could say towers is a bit of a sore spot for me. Build variety could be a lot better in my opinion, but everything else, if we were to just like summarize everything else, it's just got better. So I think really, really good. I don't want to give it a rating because we're still in early access, and it's just going to keep getting better. So what is really good now, we might look at in a year and go, damn, it was bad a year ago, because it is just going to keep getting better. So yeah, really good patch. If you haven't played since the last league or, initial release, I think it's a great time to jump back in. I think it's a ton of fun. But yeah, I'm going to keep playing. I'm really enjoying it. But what do you think? How's your experience been? What did you play? Has that impacted your, did you play a build that maybe wasn't so good, or have you played something that had loads of fun? I'm really curious. Let me know. That's it from me. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.